If you're thinking about canning in jars with cork stoppers, you might be worried about the cork lids sealing properly, or if they'll spoil your food instead. In this video, I'll give you some practical tips to help you decide if cork stopper jars are right for your canning and food preservation. Now, cork has been used for tens of thousands of years to preserve food and wine and many delicious things, but it can seem like a bit of a risk if you've never actually tried canning using cork lids before. The truth is, it depends on the quality of the jars and the cork stopper, as well as a few other important things I'll go over. Something to remember first is how long you want to actually keep the food or whatever you're preserving in the jars for. Now, if the cork lids on your jars have a good airtight seal, they are just as good as any other kind of jar for long-term food storage, but not always for canning or preserving. Generally, if you want to keep things sealed for several years, cork is likely not always the best route to go because you're more likely to run into problems. That's not to say that it can't be done, but there's definitely a higher chance to mess up. So, if there's a potential to mess everything up, you might wonder why in God's name anyone would want to even use cork lids for canning. Well, there are quite a few reasons actually. So first, cork doesn't absorb moisture or shrink over time. It's also antibacterial and antifungal. That's an obvious benefit for canning. Cork lids, of course, get rid of any risk of a metallic kind of taste or any nasty chemicals leaching from the lid into your food, like you can get with some of the cheaper metal lids. Cork lids will also give a more artisanal or rustic look and feel, and just look really nice in your kitchen. What you might or might not know is that cork is actually slightly porous. It's got these tiny little holes that let a very small amount of air to pass through, and it's this airflow that is important in the process of curing and preserving things. But there's one caveat to all of what I just said, and it's that this all depends on the quality and fit of the seal between the cork lid and the actual jar. If the lid doesn't fit tightly enough, your food can spoil, and all your hard work could go to waste just like that. And unlike regular screw-top jars, cork stopper jars aren't as easy to stack or transport if you want to stack them more than one row high. Another thing to mention is that cork reacts to temperature, so it will expand when heated and shrink when cooled. This could cause you some issues with the seal, so it's important that you always let the food or liquid cool down before sealing it in a jar with a cork lid. If you still really like the whole natural aesthetic and flavor purity benefits of cork lids, but you want something more convenient and easy to stack, similar to a traditional mason jar, it's worth considering something like these screw-top acacia jars, which will seal and function like your typical mason jar lid. Now, what should you look for when picking out jars with cork lids if you're going to use them for canning or preserving? First priority is actually the type of glass used for your jar. Make sure the jar is food safe and free from harmful materials like lead or cadmium, which can be in cheaper glassware, especially if it's made of soda lime glass. You'll also want to check if the glass can handle extreme temperature changes without cracking. Borosilicate glass, which is the same stuff they use in Pyrex glass, is the best option for canning because it checks all of these boxes. If you want more details for picking the right type of glass for kitchenware, there's a great guide that lays out all the pros and cons and what to look for in good glassware down there in the description. So take a look at that afterwards if you like. Next thing, and this is just as important as the glass, you want the seal between the cork and the opening of the jar to fit properly without any gaps. A ball-shaped stopper like these jars here will work great for storing food, but not really for preserving or canning. Something like these cork lids on these jars here will be much better for keeping that constant seal or plug if you like. One last thing I'll say on this is you want to consider the ergonomics and what you will prioritize most. Are they easy to clean? Do you need to transport them? Do you want to sell what you're preserving? So, all in all, can you can and cork stopper lid jars? You sure can. You just need to pick good quality jars with the right shaped lid to make sure that there's no gaps. And as long as you aren't looking to make the food last for, 8, 10, 12 years, you can absolutely can in jars with cork stopper lids at home. Thanks for watching. Hopefully, this all made sense and helped you to decide what you're going to do. I'd love to hear what you all are canning, so let me know in the comments. Take a look at those guides and the beautiful collection of glass storage jars and containers at Wonderwood.